Hello again, and welcome back to the What Is That video series. My name is Tom Hewlett. I'm the Museum Collections Technician and Researcher here at the Esplanade Arts and Heritage Center in Medicine Hat. Now, here at the museum, I occasionally come across artifacts in the collection that seem a little bit out of place. And those artifacts usually really intrigue me, and I want to find out more about the history of the piece and about the owners and how those pieces came to be here. Now, that research is usually possible. Sometimes it isn't. It depends on whether or not we were able to record a story about the piece before it came into the collection. But what I find really enjoyable is when my research lets me go down the proverbial rabbit hole and really dig deeply into the history of the artifacts, the owners, and also the larger cultural context of those artifacts, and sometimes how those artifacts travel the world. So that leads us to this week's artifact. Let's have a look at it now. This week, I'd like to show you what at first appears to be a simple deck of playing cards, though they aren't the kind you would usually find around Medicine Hat. Most people are familiar with decks of cards, and I would make a guess that most homes in North America have at least one deck of cards. Playing cards and card games have been a very popular form of entertainment for centuries. Now, playing cards may have originated in China in the 9th century AD with block printing, and they likely traveled across the globe, arriving into Egypt in about the 11th century and then on into Europe by the late 14th century. But, of course, over the centuries, the games and the cards themselves changed. Even the numbers of cards in the deck varied depending on the type of game they were used to play. And different styles of playing cards gradually developed in different countries, though most countries retained 4 suits. We're most familiar with the standard French deck, using spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds, but there are other styles too, such as the Swiss-German deck, with roses, bells, acorns, and shields, and the Italian deck, which is similar to the Spanish deck, which is what we have here. This is in the Spanish style and has suits of cups, coins, swords, and clubs. The deck was made in either Barcelona or Cadiz in Spain. And that leaves us with the question, what are they doing in Medicine Hat? Well, they belong to a fellow by the name of Howard Burton Brigham, usually called Bert, shown here with his family in the mid-1920s. Bert Brigham came to the village of Karlstad, later named Alderson during the First World War, in 1909 from the United States. Alderson is located on the rail line approximately 56 kilometers northeast of Medicine Hat, and it was a prosperous village in its time. And Bert Brigham was a barber, a notary public, a village auditor, the secretary-treasurer of the school, and he ran a general store. The town of Alderson began to suffer during the Great Depression, and not long after the 1930s, it was a ghost town, and it remains so today. So where did Bert get the deck of cards? That's tough to say, though he is known to have served in the Philippines with the U.S. military during the Spanish-American War in 1898. Now, that war only lasted a few months, and it might be the origin of the cards, though they are marked 1900 on the 4 of Cups, so perhaps he picked them up sometime later. Nonetheless, they are an interesting item in the museum collection, and a marker of an interesting man from a town that's no longer there. The research isn't done yet. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.